Alright, hello again everybody. Finally, back in the shop. My goodness, it seems like working for money just takes all my time, and I want to pursue what it is I enjoy most, which is working wood, and I just don't get the time to do it. I did mention in my last video that I got the business license for McEwen gunstocks. I'm going to pursue the FFL license, and hopefully I can find a living doing gunstock work for firearms, because the air gun world doesn't want to pay a living wage for this kind of work. Unless it comes spit out of a computerized carving machine, it's probably the only way to be profitable. And yes, I do have a massive computerized carving machine over there that I'm trying to get into operation. Only 20 grand short. Oh yeah, so the Adventure Mobile, the van, my daily driver, my only mode of transportation, coming over the mountain last Thursday, blew its head gasket. I knew it was on its last wheel. It wasn't going to pass smog this coming October and was going to be dead because it had a worn, has a worn cam. It was still going down the road okay though, until it blew its head gasket. So I had to go get another car, and I got a newer Ford van, a E250 3/4 ton. It's plenty of room. I can sleep in it, carry all the outdoor activity gear. I can go get walnut for making gun stocks in bulk. Well, up to 3/4 ton anyway. So that's cool, except now my monthly nut has just increased because the insurance is $50 more than what I was paying. I have a $350 a month car payment now, which I've never had in my life. And then the fuel cost is going to be a little bit more than I was used to, but really not much more, because even though the Aerostar was a V6 van, it's older technology, and it was only running on 5 cylinders for all intents and purposes, so I was getting about the same economy that I'm going to get with the new van. So anyway, let's get back to work here. So it's time to put the recoil pad on, and I got a little bit of a jump start on it, but I want to run through the steps with you. So first I did a little bit of shaping of the outside at the back here, just so I can see a profile that's somewhat close to where we're going to be finished. Then, using a ruler, I measured across a whole bunch of widths, marking the center all along. I do this with the stock held nose end down between my knees, sitting in a chair. And one technique I use to be quick about it is, let's say up here that it's pretty close to 1.5 inches wide, but not exactly. I adjust the ruler back and forth so that 1.5 inches space on the marks is equally spaced between the wood. So, you know, maybe I got a 30-second or maybe 3 30-seconds on both sides of the 1 inch and the 1.5 inch mark, right? So it's just a fast way to mark a bunch of marks that are in the center, and then I lay this down along those marks and get the average of them and draw a line. Next is I place the recoil pad on the back, pretty much about where I'm going to want it, and stick an awl through, pointy thing, and scribe a little mark at the location of one of the holes. Then I measure between the centers and the 2 holes on the pad, because they're never exactly alike. And a trick to measure to the center, to get the center distance, is to measure from, say, the right edge of this hole to the right edge of that hole. And you're going to get the same dimension as if you tried to eyeball where the middle was. So then transfer that dimension up to indicate this second mark. Then I use the awl and get a hole poked right where I want those to be. And because of the grain, the first part of the hole poking is often not exactly where I wanted it. You know, despite the best try, you poke in the wood a little bit and you pull it out and it's not on the line. So then I just force it in at an angle, force it in, work the wood, keep working it round and round and in and angled or whatever it takes until I get a nice divot right where I want them. Okay, so now the next trick is I'm going to use these stainless steel screws. I don't use the screws that come with the recoil pad. I buy stainless steel screws, so you know, I build something that's going to last for generations. These gun stocks are going to be passed down. So stainless steel screws. They require an 1/8 inch pilot hole. So I got an 1/8 inch drill bit chucked up here in the hand drill, and then a block of aluminum to use as a gauge to make sure I'm going vertical into the wood, because I guarantee you, no matter how straight an eye you think you have, very difficult to drill a hole freehand and be perpendicular to the work. So there's tricks I use. It's possible to do that, but anyway, this is much better to get good results. So use your drill press or your milling machine and poke a hole in there. Because I do this a fair amount, these holes get wore out. It's only aluminum. You could do it out of steel, but it just takes longer to drill. But it would last a little longer maybe. But when these get too worn out, I just poke a new hole. So you see there's a bunch of holes from different driller projects, and I've got a number of these laying around, and this is the one I grabbed. Thickness, you know, something that's going to help you hold it vertical. This is a 1/2 inch thick. So to start, I'm going to get the drill bit into my divots freehand, not with that guide, and I'm just going to get a hole started. And you're not going to see me do this because I'm going to mess with the camera, but I'm just going to start a little hole and another little hole. So there you go. You hear that little rattle when I slap the wood. It's because I had to cut the forearm apart. It's a tuning fork. Yeah, I could tune a rabbit. Never mind. Alright, so now I'm gonna put this block on here, and I want to make sure that I've got enough drill bits sticking out to accommodate the length of the screws. So I can put the screw up there and check it out. Now there is a little bit of thickness of the plastic plate at the bottom of the pad, so that means I'm going to drill it just a little bit too far, and that's okay with me. So now, you're not going to see me do it, but I'm going to hold the block up. Here I'm going to try to show you. Oh, that's hard. I'm going to hold the block up and out of the way, get the drill bit into my started hole, drop the block down, hold it flush to the wood, and whoop, I'm trying. Hold it flush to the wood and drill the hole. I'm going to do that out of the view of the camera. So just give me a minute. Oh yeah, we got this good. And I'm drilling. Oh my goodness, I was in the film. So, one trick when you're drilling is you're going to fill the drill bit up with wood. And it's going to reach a limit that it can't feed the wood up those spirals anymore. The walnut is dense and kind of sticky, so you go on a little bit. Basically, you're removing some wood and it's on the drill bit. Clean the drill bit out and go back in again. In CNC work, they call it poking, I believe. Alrighty, hole 2. We talked for a few hours. My voice is a little rough. Here we go. Alright. And I'm just going to make one little check here that we got enough depth. Yep. Not quite. Alrighty. So next, I'm going to put another. I've soaked and soaked and soaked this end grain with oil while I haven't had an ability to work on the project for a while. Every night I come out here and soak it with oil. I'm going to put one last coat on there while I screw this thing down. But there's another step we need to do, another little piece of preparation. This will only take a minute. So I've got a Phillips bit here that has a round shank. I prefer this over a hex shank for going through the rubber because this will tend to not chew up the rubber. We're also going to use a little bit of grease on the screw and on the screwdriver bit. And I like using Super Lube because I have it in the shop. I actually have a case of it that I bought a few years ago because I use it a lot. And it's probably a lifetime supply now, but on eBay it was cheap, so why not? But you could also use Vaseline, or frankly, your favorite spring lube greaser, whatever you have around. You know, sometimes I don't think you'll get enough off of it, but a very fine, good quality grease to use for small little projects is the grease on the side of your nose. But in this case, we want something a little more goobery. So I'm just going to stick the screw in there like that. And here's the other one. Now, that was a little bit too much goober. Goober! Who are you calling goober? Alright. Good thing there's only 2 people in the world looking at my YouTube videos, huh? Alright, so now I'm going to load these up in the pad. I pre-poked these holes with it all. Of course, you knew that from getting it set up. So there we go. We're just going to poke those in here. I do not prefer the Pachmayr pad. They have a lot of brand recognition. And you go in the gun store, that's what they're going to sell on the rack if you need a recoil pad. Some inexpensive firearms come with Pachmayr pads. No, not inexpensive. They try to advertise like they're quality. But this pad that I get is a custom-made pad from a company that does just pads. You will recognize them on other quality guns. They're a wholesale kind of outfit. You got to buy them in bulk. Well, you know, one of the things I really want to do with my gig here is one can pay to have a mold made for these pads with your logo in it right there in that spot they provide for you. And I don't have much of a logo for McEwen gunstocks. I had other ideas for a business name, but those names were all taken, you know, names that would have been cool, would have offered the opportunity for cool branding. But all those names for domain names were taken, so I just ended up going with my name, like every other gunstock maker in history has done. So I'm thinking the only thing I have for a brand is my signature, which I think is kind of cool. And, well, I've always thought I should sign the inside of the gunstock, so I'll put it on the recoil pad. But anyway, it's like $800 to have the mold made, and I need a dust collector way before I need that, and now my monthly nut just went up. I got a $350 a month car payment, and the fuel cost and insurance cost is more, and so I'm just struggling. I am surviving, but boy, I'm not at a comfort level where I can really invest in my gunstock business, which is the future I dream of. Anyway, 58 years old, the future's dwindling. I better make it happen. All right, so I'm gonna soak. So this is finishing oil. You get these little squeeze tubes at Tap Plastics or Walmart for ketchup. I fill them with. Just make sure you can get marbles in the top when you unscrew the top. As air gap forms, you know, I squeeze the air out and put the cap on, but there reaches a point where it'll just suck air back in again, and then you add marbles to fill up the space. Get them at the dollar store for a bag of marbles. Anyway, just going to coat that one more time. Some people epoxy. My father epoxies the pads on, and there's a lot of applications where that would be the appropriate thing to do. The cool thing about these pads, the main reason for the epoxy is because if there's any imperfections in the cut, you know, if the saw left a little mark, or if the pad just, you know, for some reason doesn't fit right, the epoxy is going to fill up that gap and make it look like it's a perfect fit. These pads that I use, they've got a concave surface. I had to think convex, concave. So as you tighten it down, it really squishes, you know, this flexes a little bit, and then as you sand, if you have to sand way back in here, you know, quite a bit, sometimes I do, you know, with the skinny stock, then you just keep retightening this, and this curved shape maintains a tight fit all around the periphery of the buttstock. I really like these pads. Anyway, we're greased, we're oiled, we're going to screw it in as soon as I put the bit in the driver. And and a little bit of grease on the bit. Alrighty. Now, screws in the holes. Screw this guy on here. I'm going to put it on the ground. You're not going to see me screwing around. I did break a pad once, cracked it, drilling too tight, so finished it off by hand, because this way I really got a feel for what is tight and what's too tight. Alright, so there we have it. Pad is on. Now we're going to sand it. And you see there's the plastic part, and then there's the rubber that was poured on top of it and around it. So we're going to want it, and here you can see, maybe you can see, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's a little bit of the rubber that's come over the plastic. So we're going to want to sand through the plastic and the rubber and the wood until we have a completely seamless surface and a clear definition between the plastic and the rubber. So it's going to be a fair amount of work. We're going to do slack side sanding on the belt sander, which, because I don't have a dust collection system in this shop, I have to do outside, and that would be in the daylight, which is not right now. So that is as far as I'm going. But look how that's starting to look. There's just drops of oil here. It'll all get sanded up and it'll look homogeneous in short order. This just drips from oil. The form would have already been shaped by now, except we got this whole Schnabel project coming up. It's going to require a different machine and a lot of time and attention, and so we're getting there. Doing all the easy things first. Okay, that's it. See you next time. Michael out.